Well, welcome everybody. It is John Cheplak here with you today, and I'm excited to bring you an hour of, I think, some entertainment. We'll talk a little bit of golf, but most important, what I know that all of you are here for is to hear the strategies, tactics, systems, and also the journey that Josh Coleman has taken, from even before his real estate career up until now, where he's running a team and transitioning really from the sales standpoint into leadership. So, Josh Coleman from Phoenix, Arizona. So good to have you here, buddy.
John, thanks for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
You bet. So let's do this. Let's jump. I mean, it's appropriate. The Masters just ended up, and it's part of your story. So let's
Right.
go. Let's go back. Let's talk golf
Okay.
because golf was your path. It
Yep.
is your passion. And,
Yep.
and so talk about moving from the point that John, I got into golf, I loved it, and this is where I was going and how I evolved to here. So let's go backwards and let's start with golf.
Yeah. So I think you could probably start in high school, right? It's I had the passion for the game. My stepfather introduced me to it, and so what had happened was I got into college and just truly didn't have a path, And I remember the day, the time, and the place it happened. And I looked at mom and I said, "Look, I'm spending too much money of your money, right?" And it's like, how do I transition into a kind of a professional career? I'm good at this. So I got in the golf industry. I remember I was living in Indiana at that point in time, a small town, western side of Indiana, 7,000 people. I moved from there to Virginia, Northern Virginia, like from the cornfields to the big city, right? And I took a job in Northern Virginia. If you know anything about Northern Virginia, right, it's like high cost of living. I took a job as an assistant professional there for 23 grand a year, dude.
Wow.
It was crazy, right? But it taught me a lot. Like I was fortunate enough to have some family out there that I could, kind of room with and that sort of thing. But got into the industry, and that was when it just really started the whole networking kind of point in my life. I figured out what the big hitters were in the golf industry out there, like where were the best clubs to be at. And so I remember the day that the cart kid position opened up at a very exclusive club, Robert Trent Jones Golf Club, for those who know, kind of top 100 clubs around the country. And I went and interviewed for that position, literally to scrub carts, right? And I was had a great interview, got put into the assistant professional role, stayed there for 6 years. Obviously had a great relationship with the members, and I was able to, when the economy was kind of getting bad, I didn't really know what was going on around me, man. I was young, and so I remember the day my head professional came to me. He's like, "Look, dude, you got seniority here. You can do what you want to do, but now's your opportunity if you want to go try to play." So put a resume together, and I had a good playing resume from just a club pro level, and we got some members to kind of back it, and off I went. So jumped on mini tours and played in that game for a few years. But yeah, it taught me a lot, that's for sure.
So how long did you play on the mini tours? I've got a
Well,
real good friend down in Atlanta who did the same thing, was right there.
yeah, if it would have happened earlier in life, I probably would have stayed out there longer. I was 26 when that happened.
Okay.
25 or 26 when that happened, right? I stayed out there for about 4 years.
Okay.
Kicked it around. The last year just wasn't, I wasn't passionate about it. And when you lose passion in something, as you know, and we've talked numerous occasions, man, it just isn't worth your time. So it was really hard for me, man. Whenever I got into real estate in 2012, a lot of people wanted to play golf with me and stuff just because that was my background. And you know how it is when you find a good golfer, you attract some people, man. And so I just had no passion for it. And until this day, I still struggle with going out there and playing. Like, it's just not fun to me anymore, and I finally got my amateur status back. So it's, once I get this business in a position to where I can kind of get there, I'll start playing amateur competitively again.
So let's go right into 2012. What made you decide to go into a job where you work and every 2 weeks you don't get a paycheck?
Yeah, that was strange, right? So I remember being in Indianapolis at this point in time. I was with my wife, and always in the back of my mind when I was playing was like, what if this didn't work out, right? Which I think structured me right for real estate, right? It was like, hey, that's not an option, right? You just got to keep pushing. And so I had a mentor in my life who's a good friend of mine who lives here in the area, and he's an older guy, but still a very good friend, more a father figure to me than he is anything. And I remember the phone call I made. I said, dude, it came to an end. Now what? He goes, pack your bags, drive out here, get to real estate. And so I packed my bags, drove out to Phoenix, 2-day drive, 24 hours, and literally got into a 9-day crash course into real estate and had my license in, no time.
So how was the first year?
It was a struggle. Well, I shouldn't say it was a struggle. I was really, really fortunate. This is why this team setup, like I have so much passion for it, is because when I first got into real estate, I was fortunate enough to lean on someone who put me into another team environment, and I learned so much from them in the first year. Albeit, I gave up a big split, but it was a right place to be. Like, it was a proving ground. It was, the training ground, and it's what kind of molded me into what I am today. And I'd still tell that broker this to this day.
So when you got into that first year, you were in that team. Did they guide you with any? Because I think it's really important for people to know too. Because here's what so many people look at is they look at education, they look at coaching, and I can't afford it. It's an expense.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you look at the very productive people like yourself and all that we associate with. None of us look at it as an expense. It's an investment because we get a return on it. In that first year, were there any coaches, trainers, speakers? I think it's important for people to hear. There's so many options out there. Was there someone specifically or a number of people that are in the coaching, speaking, training business that you followed?
Yeah, so it was actually, the guy, the broker there was one of Craig Proctor's coaches. So I got a lot of script training there. Cool. And if anybody knows Proctor system, right, it's, a lot of internet lead generation. It's a lot of direct response marketing and that sort of thing. So it taught me a little bit about marketing. It taught me a little bit about scripting, right, and how to give effective buyers and listing presentations. And so that was really kind of the gist of the whole training thing. Now, when I was there, like, I looked at everything I liked about that program, and then I looked at, like, okay, hey, what would I change, right? Or what would I do different, or what would I add to it or take away, and those sort of things. So again, it was, I did have a coach, and I had more of a mentor than a coach, if you will.
Okay. All right. And then, moving along, how long were you on that team before you broke out on your own?
I left that team in 2014.
So about 2 years.
Yeah, I was there, I think, just over 2 years, or just shy of 2 years, something like that.
Okay, so your first year on your own, not within that team structure, how did you generate business? What were your different silos?
So I thought I had all the answers when I left there, right?
Of course, that's why we leave. I can do it better than you.
Exactly. So I left there thinking, oh man, I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to build this massively successful real estate business. But I think, what I learned in the first year was so important was my leadership skills, right? And how do I didn't know it at this point in time, but what I did know was that I had something. And so when I left there, it was, I was going to be the traditional, do a lot of listings, do a lot of, work with a lot of buyers and that sort of thing. But I did a lot of internet lead generation because that's what I came from, right? I did a lot of FSBO and expired as well. But all throughout that time, though, it was a weird setup. And I think that's when you and I got introduced I knew I wanted something more. And that something more is what we've got going on now, right? But it wasn't, I didn't know that then. Like, I didn't have the definitive answer at that point in time. So I think, a lot of that was trial and tribulations with some of the systems I had in place whenever I left.
Right. So let's talk chicken or egg, because you were sitting in that spot, and it's a very, when I say chicken or egg, John, what do I do? I've got numerous clients right now that are saying, John, do I hire a buyer's agent first, or should I get an assistant, or what should I do, or what should the production level be? And everyone's different. I think our risk elements come into play. Now, so here's what's very interesting, because we've talked about this. Moving into building a team, to be successful, you've got to hang up the sales hat and make sacrifice and move into leadership for it to really work, because we've watched people spin and spin and spin. They I'm building a team, but then they jump back in because they're not generating enough business with the team. And so, the one thing that I want to share with everyone, why don't you share with everyone the timing? Where was your business at sales volume wise when you started to take a look at building a team? First of all,
8 million. Whenever I looked to get out of it completely, I was right about 8 million. I had a small buyer's agent that had a little more to that than the 8 million piece, but it was when I made the decision to say, hey, I'm done, and jump into it. And I wasn't, this mega producer. Could I have produced more? Absolutely. But I think if you look into that system that I had, not being real definitive in what I truly wanted, that's what some of this stuff stems from. But, it was tough to hang up the sales hat. It's funny because now that in the role that I'm at, we have 20 plus agents and we're building upon that or whatever it is. And I don't have time for it. I help some people out, close friends and family, but the production role is just not my role. And I think that's where team leaders struggle the most, right? Because it's a profitability issue. You look at, hey, what am I doing now? And is it generating the return I can get over here with being a buyer seller agent? And that's a constant juggle. So how do I get better over here? And that's what I'm looking at.
Well, and here's what I want to share. I mean, so much of the time that I spend with you and anyone else is hopefully someone can watch this and hear this and gain a borrowed belief and look and go, wow, that inspired me to take action. But what I want to go to is tell everyone where your family life was at from a risk level. I mean, let's see, you've got a wife, a little one, and oh, by the way, we're having another baby, and I'm going to move away from sales and make an income sacrifice because you do. I mean, you got to do it. So, I mean, where were you at in space and time? I mean,
yeah, no, it's funny because it's funny that you asked that because I don't know if the conversation was ever had between my wife and I. Right? It was.
Oh, great.
Right. Yeah. So now it comes out, the truth comes out, right? But no, it's I never thought, I have self-limiting beliefs just like anybody, right?
Like me.
And I talk about that more than anybody. But I don't think that I ever thought that I couldn't make it work. You know what I'm saying? Now, is there stuff that kind of creeps in on a daily basis? Absolutely, right? But I just, I don't know if there was ever that definitive draw line in the sand, time and place where I said, nope, done being a buyer's agent or a sell,
just a real standalone agent, right?
To team leader. And I don't know if there was ever that point in time. It was just kind of, I don't know, John. I can't answer that question. It was never like I drew a stake in the sand and said, I'm going.
Well, and so because we had these conversations and we continue to have conversations around this, and I think the thing to really think about is, when I go around, I'll do, whether I'm speaking or coaching or just chatting with people, and a lot of times from people say, okay, what would you like to hear from me? I've got my PowerPoint, I know the message, and every time, Josh, it's mindset. So that's fine, but we've also talked about this one too, because I experience it. It's that mind that tells us, I'm going here, I'm doing this. That same mind tells us, but you can't. It gets into that logic circle that keeps us there. So I think that, and I think you'll get this when I bring this up, there was a point when you got out of your head. Talk about that. And you started thinking about things outside of business, because everyone talks about the why and the, what's your why and what's your why. I think you need to articulate that, because you started taking a look at, okay, sure, I want to make this revenue, but I think it was bigger. You were out of your head and the logic. You said, what did you want to experience in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. And, for me, the experience is watching other agents build a growing and sustainable real estate business. It is so hard in this industry to be a really, really good real estate agent. And I think that, just like you said, we all struggle with, hey, I'm going here, but it's the same mind that keeps pulling you back, right? And real estate agents have that at times too. It's, I'm busy, but what if? What if it all comes crashing down? And so I try to be that pillar or that steadiness in their business that says, hey, we can do it. We just have to look at the 5,000-foot view and poke holes in this business and really look at whatever, we talk about dollar producing activities, and I won't go all into that, but we need to look at activities that are going to get you to where you want to go versus waking up with that no purpose, so to speak.
Sure. So when you really made this decision to build the team, how long ago was that? We're sitting here, is it April 19? We're April 19, I think, if my days are right, somewhere around there. How long ago did you decide that, you know what, I'm going for this, I'm going to build this team, and how many people were on the team at that point in time?
So whenever I look back, it's funny because I play golf with field. It's like I was running this business at one point in time on field too, and in October I was at 4 agents and myself. And 2 of those agents were just agents that, one of them was a mentor of mine who doesn't do a lot of production because he doesn't need to. And then just another friend of mine that are on the team. So it wasn't really truly a team, but that was October. And now we're 6 months later and we're at 23, I think.
23 agents. So talk about this, because it's, I think it's the most challenging thing that broker owner managers, I got in the business, well, a long time ago. It's 27 years now. And when I got in the business and then moved to leadership, I went to training classes, I went to seminars, I went to all kinds of gathering of top owners, brokers, because I wanted to learn. I'm a student like you. And the number one most daunting task, by the way, you have recruited more to your team in 6 months than about 95% of most broker, owner, managers, recruiters do. I mean, it's just the reality, because it's just not a part of our native skill set. So share with everyone, agents that want to build a team and broker, owner, managers, because really you're in that same space. Talk about what you did to attract agents to your team.
Yeah, so it was a lot about what you and I always talked about, and that was allowing people to experience you and your environment. And so I do a lot of that, right? From leadership to coaching to kind of creating the system, the platform that allows somebody to basically come and plug and play. Mm-hmm. Now, what we do is a lot of, we do the recruiting, we do the phone work, right? We do a lot of workshops that are free for agents to come and plug into and get to experience me and experience my culture a little bit. So that's been huge. And then we do a lot of, online stuff as well, whether it be join.me's, go to meetings type of training that, through our recruiting conversations and those sort of things, drive people to those events, and then they experience us, and guess what happens?
So it's not, just so I'm clear here, and I'm going to be a little bit sarcastic, it's not the pick up the phone, hardcore, feature, benefit, trial, close, handle the objection, all that type of stuff. It's more of, gosh, you're actually letting some of your competition, agents that are with other companies, come in and sit through a training class, experience your leadership, and actually leave and go back to their brokerage firm and use it there if they want to. Kind of in a nutshell, right?
Absolutely. Well, and you and I talked about it too, is, I don't need to do the feature dump, right? Because I don't need to say I got the latest and the greatest and all that stuff. Yeah, am I biased, and do I have that? Obviously, right? But at the same point in time, I truly believe that with this wholeheartedly is because of the experience that you take them on, they make the decision that that's the ride they need to be on.
Absolutely. So share strategically what you did. I mean, because the brilliant thing that you did, and you went on a path, is from a marketing standpoint. Was it recruiting postcards? Was it dialing for dollars? What did you do? And you've done a lot. What did you do from the ground level to today to build what you have in place? I mean, from an online perspective, social media perspective, every strategy and tactic. Share that. Let's pull back the curtain.
Well, you can see the background here, right? Yes. So I play in that space quite a bit, right? I'm doing a lot of video production, a lot of blogging, a lot of value add stuff where agents can take this mindset stuff we talk about, whether it's tracking numbers or why lead follow-up's important or how to sit better open house or whatever it is that we're talking about, whatever the theme of the week is. We're doing that, right? We're blogging, we're putting it out on channels, we're playing the hub and spoke theory that you talk about, right? And so when you've done that, and I'm a living testimonial, is that there are things that have shown up in my life in the last 6 months that is like, okay, it's like, how can I compound that? But the problem is you can't source it, right? I can source it because I got belief in it now, but you can't source it. So that's the hardest part for me, but it's truly what's the digital, what's the online body language. And when you get to play in that space, some crazy stuff pops up.
Well, and I want to touch on that because it's interesting. And again, I don't know that I disagree with anyone. I think that everyone's right because they speak from their experience. I'll share mine. You'll hear people say views on your video don't matter. Likes on your posts don't matter. Big deal. You're chasing likes. Email open rates don't matter. And I'll say, interesting. So there's no social currency. There's no credibility that's created when people are, very active on your posts. Absolutely. I mean, you're playing where you need to. So let's drill down into the specifics. So you create video is number one. It's all about content, and how am I going to allow people to experience me? So your choice, what I'm hearing you say is your choice was, you know what, John, I'm going to go down the path of video. So let's start and let's talk about that. What are the basic subjects that you chat about in video? What is the length of your video? And then talk about the main environment that they sit in and then where they go from there. So, tell us the whole story there.
Yeah, so obviously it starts with kind of the hub, right? And that's our blog. And so what we really do is spend a lot of time on there, putting content on there. Here's one of the things that I just learned, and I think it's very crucial for a lot of people to understand this as well, is I was always caught up in the activity of, I've got 7 blogs to write this week or whatever. And it's pull the journal with you everywhere you go, write it down, put it into words, put it on the blog. Maybe you don't need to share that blog post right now in its current time, but it's always, it's a catalog. It's a bank for people to go back. So what we're doing now is as content gets created, we put it up there right away. And then on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, I just channel it out, right? So maybe it's a video about, I believe in repurposing a lot. So let's back up. I'll create a written piece, right? And a written piece is about choice management and why it's so crucial because time's our only asset or something. Then I'll create a video around it. Then I'll create a podcast around it. But all those channels.
One piece of content.
It's one piece of content, right? Most people thought, and I did too, right?
Yeah.
It's 3 separate pieces of content. No, it's a repurpose of content, but allows me to get my message out there more often. Mm-hmm. And so, we're playing around with things like Snapchat and Instagram and, trying to, what's the appearance you need to have on LinkedIn? And we're sourcing all that stuff and not sourcing in the fact of what kind of numbers are we getting out of it, but sourcing in the fact of what does it look and feel like on each platform and trying to really get a good understanding for that.
Absolutely. So let's talk about that blog space. So what's the title of your blog and let everyone know what it is so they can go check it out. What is the URL of your blog?
Yeah, getarealcareer.com.
Getarealcareer.com. And so if we break it all down, number one, your overarching objective, which aligns with your theme. I mean, you and people I'm sure can sense it right now. You want to serve, lead, inspire people in this business. But in the end, we're in business and you want to recruit people to your organization. So,
absolutely.
So let me ask you this. How many call to action videos? How many we're so great videos? How much selling in any messaging whatsoever goes on this blog, which when people check it out, they're going to see a lot of content. But how much of that is taking place on the blog?
None, zero. Good thing, man. And I appreciate it because what I didn't understand for the longest time was if you just take people through the experience, people will show up. And that's what's been crazy is there's zero call to action. I don't even call to action anymore. Follow me on my YouTube or follow me on my Facebook or any of that because I don't have to, right? You create relevant content and people start showing up.
Well, and I can share with you, and you know this, we've had these conversations. My two business coaches that happen to be outside the real estate industry, you know, what they've shared is, you know what, calls to action push people away. You know, one of the suggestions that I make to people, if you're posting something on social media that has a video coming through or something that's sponsored, put on there that it's blog or something like that, because otherwise there's this conditioning. We all have this program going on now that says you're going to sell me, you're going to sell me, you're going to sell me, so people will pass us up.
Right. Absolutely.
So let's talk about you're talking to people on every strategy, tactic, and system that many have shared generously with you over your career, that then you've taken action and you've had measured results. And so there's many subjects in there, so you can allow people to have an experience of your competency, your relevancy, and what you can share with them. Because let's see, there's 3 ways to get people to do business with us or join us. Tell them I'm great, someone else tells them I'm great, or demonstrate I'm great. Voila! So
exactly.
Actions speak louder than words. So let's drill into that. So you've got your subject matters you go with. What is the average length of your videos that you're actually using to educate people, to get engagement, and to get them to ultimately join you? What's the average length of a video?
Yeah, I mean, I'm anywhere from a minute to a minute and a half. I would say if you look at the last 4 or 5 video blogs, I'm keeping it closer to a minute than I am anything, probably a minute and in the teen seconds somewhere. And I really try to stay focused on that. I've just had a better response. If you measure like you say, the social currency of it, I'm seeing a lot more pop up with a minute and 10 to a minute and 19 seconds, somewhere like that. Now, am I sitting there and saying everybody has to do that? Absolutely not. To me, it's a lot of, how do I get my message out quicker? How do I not start a video and say, hey, I'm going to do this in this video versus just getting right into the meat and potatoes of it. So a lot of that's just strategy. A lot of it's getting comfortable in front of the video camera. I think that's what takes people the longest to understand, is that there is this kind of growing pain of comfortability. So, again, to answer your question, I'm somewhere between a minute and 10 to a minute and 20 seconds.
Well, here's what I say, Josh, is that people aren't afraid of video. They're terrified.
They're just, so I'm so terrified still to this day, and I'll share this with everybody so you get a glimpse of this. I tell Matt, who's sitting right beside me, who works closely and does all my video editing, and we're doing some cool stuff now, and I tell him, just hit submit on it, and I won't watch it till then. I can't take it back.
Right?
Yeah, because perfection's the enemy of done, dude. You're never going to do it if you try to perfect it. It's just not going to work.
Yes, absolutely.
And I got you dogging on me half the time with some of the quirky stuff I do in videos. So
well, here's the problem, though. You, from the beginning, I think we may have had this conversation before we started working together. I said, so how do you like your Tabasco or your hot sauce? Do you like it mild, medium, or hot? And you said, bring it. And so we've got this relationship of truth serum, and you even now say, now, dude, are you being totally honest? Are you bringing it?
Yeah.
So talk about that, though, Josh. How long ago did you take a look at the trajectory and the growth of your team? And here you are. I mean, it's beautiful to see behind you all of this set up. And when did you really start? How long ago did you start with a video initiative in your business? How long has it been?
A video initiative? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Wow.
Was it October or November?
No. Because I fought you for the longest time. No, dude. It was probably first part of the year. Well, it's funny because we're working on a couple things now with some websites and development and stuff, and we're seeing some posts from like literally back in October and November, and I'm like, dude, take it down.
Your videos?
It's so bad. But January was really when we got dialed in, and I got really intentional about, I brought a guy on who's helping me with this, and not only does he help me, but it's one of the features we give I hate to feature dump, obviously, but it's one of the things that we do because I know it's hard
Sure.
for people on the team to do it. And that's one of the things that we always teach and train around is how to be relevant, how to allow your consumers to experience you. And so, I mean, this whole production thing got set up recently, and I've just now got dialed into it. We're looking at training on how to do different techniques with video, and I think it's one of the coolest things ever because I mean, you and I talk about this all the time. You're scrolling through Instagram, you're scrolling through Facebook or whatever it is. You're watching video, man. I'm not reading. I'm watching.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and so let's go back to also because I think there's what's really neat is people are watching this video and they see, wow, there's equipment. This guy's for real right now. Yet he was a rookie. He's looking back at old stuff. But here's the other part too. Are you learning as much now about video and in video as you were in the very beginning when you knew nothing? I mean, do you have it just so figured out, or do you have to stay in a space of, you know what, John, I'm testing and I'm trying things out? Talk about that.
Yeah. So, it's funny because when I first got into this, when you and I first were introduced together, this whole video initiative and digital body language, I mean, I fought you forever, right? But I think the scariest thing was I didn't know how social media worked. Like I had no clue, right? And so that was not only was, the camera staring you in the face scary, right? But now I got to hit submit and try to figure out social media. And now you're talking about tracking it and analytics behind the video and all this other junk. And I was just like, all right. So, how do you eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a time. So I just started with the video and albeit bad and not understand social media and just chipping away and chipping away. Now I'm to the point now, like I'm playing on Snapchat. I'm finally understanding Snapchat. And so it's kind of cool to see all that, but it's a work in progress, John. I mean, I don't think it stops here, right? I mean, and you ride the wave too. I mean, some of the video you do is just so intelligent as far as like the scenery and what's going on and the space and how you capture the moment and that sort of thing. So that's the challenge to me now.
Yes.
Is how do you make it engaging? How do you provide relevancy? How do you make it value packed? And help my agents experience that too. And how can they push that onto the consumer and pull them into their galaxy?
So good. And I always like to share this because are you using Easy Video Suite? Are your videos hosted there? So
Yeah.
For those that don't know, it's a video hosting company that helps with analytics and it lets Facebook is a video host and YouTube's a video host. But it's surrounded by all their stuff. The nice thing with your own video host, like Easy Video Suite, is you can push it anywhere and drive it to where you're at. So I was just looking, because you can count and see, I'm up to 1,600 videos now that I have created over the last, I think I got introduced to video 9 or 10 years ago. And Tim's coming down, and Tim's worked with you.
Yep.
Tim's coming down next Wednesday after I come back from Phoenix. I'll be seeing you down there soon. And I can promise you this, Monday or Tuesday morning when I get on the airplane, I'll start getting wrapped around my axle over shoot video the next day. And I'm 1,000 into it. I mean, it's just one of those things. But, let's go back to just quickly the mindset piece, though, that I want people to capture is you're so clear on your purpose, and purpose is in our heart, not our head, so you just keep going. I mean, overwhelm is what stops people. They get paralyzed, man.
Absolutely. Well, and I think one of the biggest things you were down here for a leadership conference in, what was that, November?
Yeah, November. We had a group of folks in the room, yeah.
So that was like the beginning, and I met Ryan and Tim.
You got to sit with some real broker players in that room.
And that was a great experience for me because it was like, and you sit on it, like the why was defined for me at that point in time. Like, hey, I'm going into this, like nothing's holding me back. Conviction, I'm bought in, right? And so, but I saw you shoot a video there, right? And I've done that now, right? And it's cool because everybody thinks that I'm good at this stuff. Like, you don't want to see my blooper reel. Like, I'm going to kick the camera the next time I screw up. But it's cool for people to experience that. And now, I was able to experience you do a video in front of, whatever, a room of 20. and now I'm doing video in front of 25 agents. And that confidence that I've gained along the way, I would tell anybody this: if they're scared of video, just start doing it. And
Well,
it's hard to say.
and this isn't the I am wonderful, but it's the same thing of walk the talk. I mean, the people in that room, let's see, one guy's a senior VP of a company that recruits 1,000 agents a year. The other guy, by the way, year to date, his office, I don't know if you knew this, year to date, Joe's office of 200 plus agents is at around 3.4 million in gross commission income through the first quarter. Not production, commissions.
I know.
So,
Awesome.
and that was the piece, is just, we've just got to stand there and do it. So, I want to touch on that. And again, this isn't about me, it's about your journey, because as we look back at it, see, so here it was, and you reached out to me about it and said, does this make sense? And I think it's a suggestion for anyone. I don't care who the leadership trainer is or what organization they're a part of, but I want agents to capture this. That was a broker, owner, manager retreat,
Right.
recruiting retreat. You're a real estate agent, and you got it. You said, oh, wait a minute. That's really, I'm building a brokerage within a brokerage. I need to shift from sales to leadership. So what I want to do is just suggest to people, if you have an opportunity as an agent, you want to grow a team, find, and I'm not trying to promote me, any room where there's broker owner managers, sit in there and start listening to that language.
Because it's a different animal. It's way different. Some of the mega coaching retreats and stuff that you go on, when you get the opportunity to sit in some of these rooms where these big brokers are, and just to watch and learn and listen to what's coming out, is a completely different experience. And I'll go ahead and plug it. I just appreciate it, because you and I had these conversations about how much I struggle with the fear of video, the fear of social media, or the fear of growing this team. And you opened this conversation about the first brokerage I was with, who was my coach, right? And I just have to say, I don't care who your coach is, but you got to have one, because you can't do it by yourself. At least I couldn't. Mm-hmm. So. Mm-hmm.
And I love Joe Stump, Tom Ferry, Mike's the classic. He's the legend, man. I mean, it's just get yourself a third party observer that can, if nothing else, it's like with me. I'm with Frank Kern. Most people kind of know who he is.
Right.
I'm going to go sit in a room with Frank Kern after I leave Phoenix for my 2 days with him. And the people that are going to show up in that room, I mean, Frank's brilliant, but then to sit with those other people, that's where the true value is.
Well, yeah, and it's just the ability to poke holes in what you got going on, right? And I think that's one of the forms of leadership, is having kind of, I guess, the mindset that, look, hey, how do I grow, right? How do I take what I have now and keep pushing and keep going to where I have never been? And, look, I got to thank you for it, man, because it's been a journey, and it's cool to see like what's popping up in my life right now and where we're going to go this year, and it gives me chills, man. It's an awesome experience.
That's good. Awesome. Yeah. Well, it's all you. Well, so now let's move into this, because there's discoveries. Okay, I get it. I've got to take off the sales hat and go into leadership. Now I'm bringing people in. Talk about the evolution of discoveries and how your team has evolved, because you brought someone in also in a leadership role already in a short time frame to help with your team. But talk about what you started to discover. Talk about the challenges that came up, challenges in people you hired, and then dealing with, oh my gosh, I've got agents. Take us through the progression of, okay, now I've got these people, all the way to here, where now you plug someone into support and leadership.
Yeah, so I think the coolest part about this now is it's like I live every day with dynamite in my shorts, right? It's like, hey, it's not just me, man. I got 25 people that are counting on me. So it's really cool to experience that. The leadership thing is, I've always been, I don't know, other than, for lack of better terms, strong personality. And so I think that gives me some definition as far as the ability to help lead. But the problem is you can't lead until you ask the questions that you were taught, that I was taught by you, and that's self-discovery. And once you have the ability or the understanding that you got to ask questions that they can answer for themselves, they self-discover the process, and then voila, things change.
Yes.
That's really true leadership, I guess, in its form. And then, we talk about accountability, right? I think the 7 steps of accountability is one of the best, I don't even know, the best systems, one of the best programs that you can lead by. And so we talk a lot about that on the team, and it's, what are the commitments, and what are the challenges that are getting in the way? In the realm of everything possible, can we have kept commitments?
Oh, you got it. It's in
we
your blood.
Recommit, those sort of things. So it's the dialogue and it's the language in which you lead by that's causing these things to pop up in my life. I don't know how else to source it other than you can say, oh, hey, I put a video up on Periscope and now people are joining my team. I don't think you can source it that way, right?
Well, and I think that, what it is you came to the realization real quickly, John, I can't make a human being productive. I can't, that's impossible. I can facilitate the best condition. Let's talk about that accountability piece, because we hear it all the time. You've got to hold your people accountable, but they do it wrong. I think that if we all, before I get and I've got to plug my my mentor, Ed Kraftchak, and he taught me so much, and his wife, Kathy Allerton, they taught me the 7 steps of accountability. They taught me back in 1995 the difference of a commitment, which is defined by the result, or a goal, which is a good idea. But our accountability experience has always been one of condemnation. That's not accountability. I'm being condemned. Now you're taking people through self-discovery. How is that? Because I'm sure you've had the grind inflicted on you of accountability that didn't feel good versus the way you're holding. How do you see people responding to the way you hold them accountable now?
Well, I truly believe, like, talking a little bit about this accountability, it's you got to pull people into production versus pushing them, right? And who's taught me that, right? And so for the longest time, and I think that's where sales talk pops up, right? Sales talk pops up because you're trying to push somebody to do something. Like, they're not going to do it, right? You're going to lead somebody, you're going to encounter resistance, it's not going to work. And so me and my staff all the time, the people that are helping me recruit, the people that are actually out there, we're doing the appointments with agents and that sort of thing. It's the process of answering the question or asking the question without what I used to do was try to answer it, right? And when I would answer it, and I would lead them down this path and boom, hit resistance. And then it was like, okay, now I have nothing to go on, right? But once you learn how to pull people and let them, and you lead by example and that sort of things, just, again, things show up within their business that you can attach yourself to and say, at some point, I had something to do with that. And I think that's the biggest gratification I find. And it's not because, hey, I'm great. It's because people are reaching out and saying, wow, I never looked at it like that. Or, hey, things are showing up that weren't showing up is because of conversation yesterday and the way I treated that listing appointment or that objection or observation or complaint on the phone call or whatever. So that's the biggest gratification for me, is just watching people kind of get pulled into this whole atmosphere.
Good. So when you looked at bringing someone in, you had to look at your capacity and the number of people that were coming in. What were you looking for in bringing someone into your team, and what is their role today? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I got 3 full-time guys now, gals, I should say, 2 girls and me and myself and Matt. And
so full-time employees on your team.
Yeah. So full-time employees in the sense that, they're bought in, man. They got skin in the game, and I think that's a beautiful, beautiful way to go about it. It's working for me, and they're not all like me, thankfully.
Talk about that.
Yeah, well, because it's if they were all like me, it just wouldn't work. Right?
And let me state this: the greatest mistake, and you got this. The greatest mistake that people make over and over again is hiring themselves.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But do we butt heads? We don't butt heads in the sense that we get angry at each other. But it's like it's cool because the energy's up, and we're having team meetings, and one person sees it one way, and I see it another, and look, I'm the first person to admit when I'm wrong, or I don't see it the right way, or, because I value their opinions. But here's the cool thing. I got to process this gal that I call, she's my nearest and dearest, man. She is just a true friend. I love her to death. she's like my bad cop, right? Like if I need something, like she monitors everything, right? So I love that aspect. I got the bubbly personality that helps me in the recruiting world, and then I got my tech guy, man, who's all, does all our video production, does all our websites, builds out the blogs for the agents, gets their branded website, all the stuff that we do. Like he's in the trenches every day with the agents and, trying to wrap their head around social media or how to brand or how to market and that sort of thing. So we're all different in that capacity, and thankfully, because if we were all like me, it would be an ugly scenario.
So talk about the agents right now that you're bringing into your team. Are you focused primarily on brand new and bringing them up? Or is it, do you have a specific focus, or is it, I know you're focused, but is it one of, you know what, John, this is the messaging I'm putting out to the marketplace based on my vision and as people appear. And I know some people hear this and go, oh, well, that's not specific enough. But, the right people appear, we put them in our system, we have confidence in the system, or is it different? What's that look like? Who are you focused on?
Yeah, so we're focused on people that are aligned properly with us, right? And like what we're trying to do in the movement we're creating. I've got $10 million producer and I've got, the newbie. And I'm taking them all. And, if it feels right, it's got to feel right for them.
Sure.
Important and very important for us to make sure that we can, it's a cohesive bunch and that sort of thing. Truly what we try to do is keep the culture around this kind of centralized mission that we have as a team. And, so as long as it aligns like that, man, we're looking at everybody, and it's like I said, we got the $10 million producer and we got the newbies, so it's it's crazy. I don't know. I mean, I couldn't say that we're after one kind of segment of a production number.
I'll go back to my mentor, and he said this to me: the greatest mistake that you can make in recruiting is judgment.
Yep.
And what's so interesting, and I think it's great, again, I was never the guy that did personality tests, and I know some people do, yet, I'm the guy that never did personality tests, yet I made mistakes in hires. Well, we know people that use personality tests and make mistakes in hires. I think the piece that you're pointing out is, I would say this to people: I will hire almost anyone if I see commitment somewhere in their history. If I can go back and find there was a space that they had challenge or they demonstrated commitment. And part of that, though, too, is and you alluded to this, my confidence that if they align to our values, I've got the system to facilitate their productivity.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. And so it's, I might be wrong in my decision to bring them on board because they don't, fit the value or fit the mission, but I'm certain in my wrongness at that point in time. And, as long as I have conviction at that point in time, I'm pretty comfortable in our recruiting model. But it's something new every day. I'm new to this, and the fact of, heck, we've only been doing it for 6 months, but I've got my head wrapped around it. And as you know, man, I'm always reaching out. Am I not? And so it's like, how do I get better at this whole thing, from the recruiting process and the interview process to the phone call, to how do I follow up better, to effectively how do we get better production? How do I lead and inspire more? And that's where, I mean, it's fun, man. I wake up every day on purpose. It's a lot of fun.
So let's move away, because you had the discovery. I share this with people. I stand up in front of people and I say, great. If it's an agent training environment, you've got broker owner managers that will show up in the room too. And I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing and do everything you do on a daily basis. That's the good news. I'm shooting video. I've got my blog. I've got my podcast. You may say, yeah, but you're a coach or a trainer. It's different. Well, let me see. Broker owner manager, don't you do all of those things to try and attract agents to you? Team leader, don't you do all those things? Yes. Real estate agent, don't you do the same thing with the consumer? So let's move away from that team leader space that's attracting agents and talk about the parallels of the exact principles that you're using to recruit agents, from video to blogging to podcasting to social media, and how it mirrors exactly the same way to generate production in real estate sales.
It's funny because I do it, right? It's all about leading by example. And so I although I don't do it as much or as intentionally as I work on my recruiting, my coaching aspect of it, is we have a blog named We Are Talking Real Estate, and that blog's centered around the consumer, the end buyer, the end seller, and it's so parallel and it's so congruent with both of them in the sense that it's bringing that person in, allowing them to experience you, and effectively making a decision that you're going to be my real estate agent. And it's the same process. Is it the same message? No, but it's the same experience. It's the same ride. But there are one of the biggest kind of hangups I get or the pushbacks from agents is, well, what do I talk about, right?
Content.
I always say this. Yeah, what's the content, and this thing, go get a purchase contract, go look at the buyer advisor.
So good.
Talk about a story, talk about the last listing presentation or the last escrow or whatever it is. And so we get really dialed in on those content calendars, and we give them a list of, this is just, hey, these are simple things that you can talk about. It's cool what's showing up with other people that are doing it as well.
That's good. So here we are, April, you're 6 months, October, November, December, January. Yeah, 6 months into this team thing. So if you and I are having this conversation a year from today, what's it all look like? And the beauty is this is being recorded, and I'm never going away. So, what's it look like?
With that, right?
Right? No, we're good, brother. So what's it look like a year from today?
Yeah, it's a good thing that you've asked that. I've got big numbers in mind. I truly feel with my system and the people, my staff that are around me, I think the comfortable numbers at the end of this year, 150.
Okay. 150 agents?
150 agents, yeah. And, some people, it's funny because I'm not a person that's going to hide that from anybody. And some people come and say, well, why do you want to grow that scale like that and that sort of thing? I'm going to feel like a number at that point in time. No, and that's why I've aligned myself with my staff and the people that are around me, because I know that as I grow, internally will grow as well. And, it's all about the value and adding the experience for that agent to come in and align with my mission. And that's to help agents, provide them a platform that allows them to grow a growing and sustainable real estate business. And yeah, I mean, it looks at 150 now. Will we look at other markets at some point in time? I'll see what that looks like in another year. But, I'm committed right now. I got complete conviction in what we're doing. And it's, it's just strapping up the laces and going on the journey, dude.
Well, and you've stated it, and it talks to a principle in leadership. And I want everyone to capture this, is to do this, you're doing it right now, and on a daily basis, you're replacing yourself.
Yeah.
You're replacing yourself. And I think the other thing that I hope people capture, and we've talked about this before too, is if you want power, you've got to be willing to give up control.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the critical pieces to it. So what would you say, in looking at those parts of developing other leaders and then giving up the control aspect, how has that gone for you?
Yeah, it's funny because when I got into real estate, and I guess I kind of align this or parallel it with some agents that can't give up control of an escrow or of a transaction, the file and the paperwork and that sort of thing. I've always been able to do that, but I've got to make sure that the person that I'm giving up control with aligns with my values and my purpose and my mission and those sort of things. But as long as that happens, I have no problem with it. And I'm not a big delegator, so to speak. I feel like leverage creates what I need. And I think there's a difference between leverage and delegation.
That's good. Well, and here's the thing to remember is, as a leader, you can always delegate activities.
Yeah.
But you can never delegate responsibility.
Exactly.
I mean, you've always got to own it. So, looking at two things. Number one, what do you say right now? What would you say to anyone that's a brand new agent or a struggling? I remember when I led a branch of 100 plus agents, I had three groups. I had the struggling. I don't care how long you were in the business. If you're struggling or brand new, you were in one group. I ran self-directed work groups. So I had 20 to 25 there, and then I had my middle to core, 20 to 25, and then my top producers. And we'll talk about this as you grow too. That bottom group met once a week for an hour. The middle decor were twice a month for an hour, and the top producers once a month. And it was no training; it was pure accountability. There was enough training going on. It was just, hey, checking in. But so you're talking to someone right now that's coming into the business, coming onto your team, or someone that's struggling. What would you share with them is the most important thing that they do to get either out of their funk, the slump, in that spot? Because there's people sitting on this call that are listening to this call and going, I don't know if I'm going to stay in the business, or I'm just getting in the business. What would be one thing that you would share with them?
Yeah, well, and I'm going to kind of stem from it a little bit. First of all, you got to define your purpose. Like, what is it that you want out of this, right? I had this conversation quite often, right? Like,
and you got clear.
With complete clarity, what's it look like?
Yes.
Once you have that up here, now you can build up to it.
Yeah.
And, and clarity, let's just, for the audience, let's just talk about clarity. Maybe it's a dollar number. Maybe it's the amount of money you have to bring to keep food on the table and keep the lights on. I don't know what it is, but you got to get real clear on what it is. And until you do that, you'll never get there because you're just out there floundering around, like you say. After that, you've got to really, and I believe in this kind of activity I do every night, is planning in solitude. You got to plan out your next day and wake up on purpose, right? Because we don't have somebody, keeping their thumb on us, or we don't have somebody looking over our shoulder and saying, you're going to do this, do this, do this today. Some people need that in life, but as a real estate agent, you're never going to get that. And so you've got to literally get disciplined in what the next day looks like, or that day looks like, and live up to it, right? And it's a body of work. Somebody taught me that, right? It's how do you take what I'm supposed to do today and make it a body of work? For me, my number's 80%. How do I do it well 80% of the time?
Yeah, and it's don't judge it as we've always done. Just be a witness of it and observe it. So that's for that. And then one other question, because a year from now we'll do an interview and we'll do the third question. The third question is going to be, okay, how have you scaled the team beyond where it's at? But so we take a look at that chicken or the egg. What would your suggestion be to that person that's sitting here? And it's kind of funny, Josh, I always hear between I'd say it's really more between 5 million people start, that thought in their head starts creeping. Do I need an assistant doing this? So maybe it's the $5 to $10 million producer that's been sitting there forever and hasn't hired an assistant, but should I grow a team? What would you say to the person that's sitting here right now and they're concerned about or scared? Do I hire a buyer's agent? Do I this? Do I that? I mean, the mindset to go for it and take those action steps. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, again, you got to get clear on what you want, right? Yeah. Like what's the next step? First of all, that's what you got to do. Second of all is like, how do you create leverage? And leverage is if time's our only asset and we have choices to fill that time, what choices can I make to get myself to whatever that clear, concise number is? Maybe it's 5 million to 10 million or 10 million to 20 million. And, I have an agent now, and her and I, we are so dialed in on this because she gets it. And you're going to have to take a leap of faith, right? I mean, you're going to have to take the leap and say, hey, maybe I have to spend some cash or, build out a spot for an admin or a buyer's agent or whatever it is. But you better be really clear on what that person's going to do before you plug them into the business. And then another thing you got to do is just get disciplined and responsible to the choices that you're making, and you'll get there. But those choices have to be dollar producing. I mean, those choices can't be more administrative work because you're never going to get there, right? So you got to really understand what's adding more revenue to the business.
Absolutely. So, I know that anyone that's watched this and listened to it got tremendous value from it. We had no idea where it was going to go. I don't like to choreograph these things. We just flow with it. So, number one, thank you. And I know it's a thank you from anyone else that listens to this, but any parting words that you'd like to share?
No, I think that you just, we kind of hit on it right here at the latter part of this, is get clear on what you want to do, right? And from there, you can build up to it. And if you got any questions about it and I can help in any way, feel free to reach out. I got to thank you, John, for everything you've done for me and the experience I've been on with you. It's been a pleasure. And thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, my honor, my honor. Where can everyone find you, reach out? What are the best ways for people to find you if they want to reach out and chat, mastermind, bounce some things off you?
Yeah, best way is cell phone. You can just reach out and text me. I'd be happy to respond to it. You can get that information at gooderrealcareer.com. All my contact information's on there, updated email and cell phone number. So feel free to reach out.
So drive everyone, getarealcareer.com.
Getarealcareer.com.
REAL, perfect, awesome. Well, thanks so much. I'll look forward to seeing you this weekend down in the Valley of the Sun.
Absolutely, brother. We look forward to having you.
All right. Thanks again, man.
Take care, man.
All right.